Do people still read books? Question mark. What's up and welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? Hello, I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. With me today, I'm my co-host, Tim Ryan. I don't know why I'm yelling his name, but I just did. Tim Ryan, lead man at StartWheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent Four is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. You know, I yell, I whisper. We might as well do it all.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
What's up, Ethan?
Hey, how we doing?
How we doing? Keep it moving. Reading. So what was the last physical book that you read?
Me?
Yeah, either of you.
I think Systems Engineering. This is a really good book. As an owner-operator, I have to be
Systems
good at that.
Thinking.
And this will be the next one. The Dip by Seth Godin.
The Dip. Okay, so two-time guest of the show, Chef Chris Hill, loves The Dip. It's like our listen on the Audible, but I'm not using a credit.
I know,
on a 1 hour book.
I will look at that. What is your threshold, Zach, in terms of how many hours does it need to be before you'd be willing to burn a credit?
Probably 5. But before I even do that, I'm going to go to my, I don't know if you know this, Ethan, but our local library system, Overdrive and Hoopla, you can get a ton of audiobooks for free. So I just finished a book this morning. I listened, didn't read it. Wim Hof, The Iceman.
Breathing techniques, right?
Yeah, breathing techniques. Basically, it's breathing and get into freezing cold water and your life will be changed. Well, no, of course, I'll be freezing. So I have like I get really cold, like just in general. And so there's this thought that if you put yourself in the cold, it will actually make you less cold. I don't know. Okay, so this came up because your lady friend, Ethan, said that the book by Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights, was less than par. Have you read it?
I haven't. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so it's not like one of those it's not like, did you like it, Tim?
I did. I thought it was great.
To me, it's not one of those books that I'm like, I'm going to tell you about. But I think the stories in it are pretty damn funny. I thought it's the first half, maybe first 2/3 are like really good, and then it's like they rushed the ending. And I was like, It's like he would, because I think he wrote it in like 21 days or something. He like went on a sabbatical, like right when COVID started. He like locked himself in a room, and I feel like the first like 20 days he got in those first 2/3 of the parts, and he was like, oh, I gotta finish this book and like finish that last one. I don't know. That's my theory, but really interesting. A lot more entrepreneurial than people think. Documents the heck out of everything, and incredible stories. And did you know he was going bald?
Going bald?
Yeah.
No,
he
didn't
fixed
know that. How do you fix it? Same way Elon Musk did? Hair transplant?
Jeff Bezos as well, I guess.
Yeah. No.
Tim, what's the last book you
read?
Jeff
Bezos just went bald. Last book I read, I just finished. I just finished Michael Dell's book.
Michael Dell?
Yeah, Play Nice but Win.
You physically read it?
I like the
listen to it.
Yeah.
Last book though was Venture Deals.
Brad
Physical book. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm currently reading a Running World book. I think it's called like How to Make Yourself Poop and 999 Other Things Runners Should Know.
I just downloaded Dave.
I knew you were a runner.
Yeah, the only way you can listen to a ton of audiobooks is that. What was that, Tim?
I just downloaded Dave Grohl's book, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Dave Grohl's book looks good. There's a new wrestling book by John Moxley that looks good, and then there's a Will Smith's book. That's probably the next book that I'll actually get on Audible. That looks really interesting. He did a YouTube premiere of his show. Like I think it's just called Will or Will I Am or something like that. Interesting. All right, Ethan. So we just met. I know literally nothing about you. Give me your elevator pitch.
Well, now I know you're a runner as well. I did a triathlon
Big
a while
runner.
back, and I remember reading a lot of books about long distance, the impact of long distance
Triathlon,
running
is
and
that what you
swimming.
said?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's all I want to talk
running,
about. Oh, geez, this is going great.
Are you a triathlete? I figured you were.
Allegedly.
A little bit. I just get the vibes. When you meet with the triathlete, it's like an unspoken bond where we're like that crazy high energy person in every room.
It's like
we're in.
CrossFit. It's like a cult. Like How do you do CrossFit without saying you're in CrossFit?
Yeah, shark bait, hoo-ha-ha. He's one of us. Who knows? My elevator pitch. I'm the founder of CustomerDiscovery.co. We help startups reach product market fit faster and more affordably. We do that through two primary services. One, recruiting early tech adopters for customer discovery interviews. Two, we're launching a product market fit engine to automate a dynamic product market fit score, which you can use to validate or disprove your product.
I mean, that's a big problem. I mean, in terms of validation is tough. So to me, I mean, at least on paper, that sounds like it's a really good, it's a solid business idea, because you have early tech adopters that are always looking for the next new thing to use, and then you have a ton of startups that they've got to validate what they have going on. How long ago did you form Customer Discovery?
That's exactly right. So I incorporated the business in September as market of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, of 2020. Back when I had no idea what I was doing. I was new to the tech industry and everything, figuring things out. Brought on a team of interns from November to January. We all worked to design and develop the site, which launched in roughly May. We were profitable before we launched because we were in Y Combinator Startup School. Our first customers were from Y Combinator Startup School. One was a Stanford MBA, which he received credit from his MBA course for customer discovery. Steve Blank, thank you so much, because he teaches at Stanford, so I'm sure that's why they give them the credit. And he needed to reach podcast hosts, and that's how we listed our critical assumptions to see if we should pursue building this marketplace. And one of the critical assumptions were that early tech adopters, if they are validated early tech adopters, they shouldn't ask for money. And that's one of the biggest differences between us and user interviews and user testing and user analytics. They have to compensate the people to speak to you for primarily research needs. Ours, product incentives. Are you going to give these people free access to your site? Are you giving them, what is the value you're providing them? It has to be a product incentive. And that's how we know someone is an early tech adopter, actually interested in what you're building. That's the purest form of validation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's so many buzzwords in everything that we've said in the last 14 seconds. So I have an idea, just generally, I'm not going to pitch a business idea here, but I have an idea, right? I have a business. I want to get it off the ground. Mm-hmm. A lot of people actually, I think, don't understand what customer discovery is, or talking to people and things like that. I still think that's very much a techie thing. I still think it's a thing that not a lot of people really grasp. They think that, I want to start this business.
So build it and they will come is not a thing.
It is. It is from a great movie called Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, who I think also is in this new hit TV show. I'm on episode 2 of that.
Season 1.
Yeah. Well, real slow, real gliding.
Easing into it.
You are not an early adopter then of Yellowstone. You are not.
I thought it was like a Western TV show, and I'm like, I'm not into this stuff.
No, it is, yeah.
Maybe it is a Western TV show with a new spin. But anyway, okay, so I have an idea. I want I think it's going to make billions of dollars, yada, yada, yada. And my customer is everyone, right? And I think that in some cases, maybe your customer could be everyone, but what you're trying to find is that there's something specific about someone that is that's unique that you can play off of. Mm-hmm. How do you sell to someone that, hey, your baby's great, it's pretty, it could be something, but you got to figure out who that early stage champion is? Because to me, those early adopters, those early stage champions, if you can't win them, your business is gone, right? So you're looking at a bell curve, you're looking at quadrant 1. That's all we're looking for right now, because if you can't get those people on board, it's over. Just general thoughts on that.
Yeah, the first 10% of the market. And that's kind of how we break down the composition of our marketplace, right? First, I believe it's 3.5% are innovators, people who want to go out and build things. And sometimes there's overlap between that and early tech adopters, because a lot of early tech adopters are innovators just in between building different products, right? So within that, you have different verticals like health tech, fintech, legal tech. There's a lot of different techs you can break it down with, like trauma tech, and is a subset of health tech. And we're starting to find ways that we can find people within this vertical, but further filter them and screen them before the handoff to the founder based on their interests, demographics, and psychographic data.
You touched on one thing before we went live. We were just chit-chatting. And and you mentioned one thing that I thought was super interesting. You said, that your website is terrible. And
Awful.
there's
not GeoCities bad.
But Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, said that if you're not embarrassed by, your first release, then you waited too long. So
good point.
What went through your head when it came time to launch your website? Were you just like, we just got to get out there and get feedback? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we also spoke about the fact that I wanted to create a startup playground. So everything I do is through the lens of lean product playbook, lean startup, lean customer discovery, lean B2B, lean marketplace, lean everything. Mm-hmm. So I'd be remiss to think that, perfect is the enemy of good. Let's be real. So I wanted to get out to market. I realized that the only way we'd get feedback in terms of validating our feature set, our user flow, our dashboard, everything, no matter how bad it was, as long as people could see it, they could give feedback and say, this is something we will pay for, just fix your site first. Or you didn't really hit the mark, because of course you test things with a prototype like Figma, our designs and whatnot, and they all loved it then. And they loved it when we were live. They just wanted to fix it. We got to 159 users with a site made pretty much entirely by interns at colleges and out of boot camps. So I would actually, as bad as it is, I would say it's a success. We made revenue. We validated the need. Now it's time to raise money and launch 2.0. Now we're getting traction from corporate innovation labs, which have a lot of buying power. They're startups within a business. So they have the pain points, they have the purchasing power, and they have the need for product market fit.
Why do you think that though? Right. So like, why not just stick with it from a lean perspective? What makes you think that the website isn't good enough that you can just continue off of it? Right. And before we get into that, because you said like 17 things. I'm like, Jesus. Lean, for people that are listening that don't know, is like basically doing the least amount of things possible to get it so that people will use it. Right. Most people overproduce, over featureify their business, overbuy everything, overcomplicate everything instead of just doing something in the most simplest of way. Also, from my statement from before, that being said, people that are looking for customer discovery probably are Q1 on the bell curve anyway, because you don't have to convince those people in Q2, 3, 4 that this is what they need, because they're looking for people to do that. So I've blown my mind twice. Okay, so your site, why not keep it the way that it is? Why not keep it lean? What makes you think that you need to enhance it to get to that next level?
Broken UX flows. While we did accomplish the goal of
validated broken UX, so UX is user experience. Yeah.
User flows, meaning the happy path, right? Happy path is something every website has. For StreamYard, is the fact that we can log in, verify that my mic and my headphones work. I can go into the green room, and then we can go live, and it'll go to whatever platforms you guys chose. That's the happy path. And then after we can close it, it'll be stored. Now, imagine if you logged into StreamYard, there was no green room. We just went straight live and it didn't go to any platforms. That's kind of like a broken user flow that's relevant to what we have, because we do have on-site video interview software through Twilio, and that exists. Can you get there? It's really difficult to get there, right? Because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's a huge issue when our AI predictive validation model is fueled by data. If we can't collect that data, there is no predictive validation engine.
How did you, did you have a follow-up to that, Zach?
No.
I was just curious, what did you do to get, you said you had over 150 customers. What did you do to users?
Not customers.
What did
There's
you do
a difference
to get,
there. User is someone who doesn't pay, a customer is someone who does.
Yep.
Got it.
How did you find those first 150 users?
Well, I did customer discovery with over 100 people myself before I validated the need for a customer discovery marketplace. So we had a good waiting list. We had, I think, over around 200 people on our wait list because it was just a marketing site for a while. And we were hosted on alpha.customerdiscovery.co. Customerdiscovery.co was just a place you sign up for a wait list. And then I said, every good business is built on 1 to 2 foundational growth channels. You see it with Dropbox, you see it with Airbnb, you see it with all these different businesses. Early on, they find one growth channel, they go all in: PayPal, pay to win, Dropbox, referral marketing strategy, Airbnb.
So a growth channels like Dropbox saying, "Hey, we'll give you extra credits or extra stores." But got it.
100, yeah. And Sean Ellis was really a key there. If I had that book somewhere, Sean Ellis,
the growth hacker dude.
I also want to talk about that with Sean Ellis, if we could touch on that a little bit later, about the product market fit survey, which he coined. But nonetheless, I ran ads on Instagram. I ran ads on Twitter. I create a ton of content. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you see I do these startup success stories that are starting to get cumulative more views. But Twitter ads got us 1 to 3 new users per day. And it's so crazy because all I did was do retargeting campaigns from followers that follow Y Combinator, Techstars, Saba Kareem, who's a legend at Techstars. You're the best, Saba. Thank you so much.
Because they saw it enough because it was retargeted, and then they weren't.
Well, it's just people who had affinity to early tech, and then they signed up 1 to 3 a day on a budget of $12 a day. We can scale to 1,000 users by the end of over 1,000 users with a budget of $12 a day.
One thing that I've noticed about this area, the Hampton Roads area, the 757, whatever we want to call it, is how few people in this area are on Twitter. And it was, and so many people want to try to raise money. And it's like, there's just a huge investor community on Twitter. That's where all the tech people are. And yet, here, there's very, very few people that are on Twitter. And I do most of my interacting with folks and learning on Twitter. I just, my PSA to people in the Hampton Roads area is get on Twitter and and start discovering people. No pun intended.
Volunteering is tribute.
Scout's honor.
I mean, it's fascinating to me.
Okay, so my question that I was going to ask you before was, you just don't seem. This is a compliment and a statement and maybe a question. Whatever.
Maybe an insult. No, okay.
It's an insult. It's an insult to something. It's not you. You don't seem like a guy that lives in this area, right? You don't seem like a guy that has been able to figure out some of this stuff. They don't live in this area, right? You can almost historically look at the type of companies in this area and say that they don't look like other area businesses, right? I'm shocked that this business was started here. And I think even when I asked him before, I was like, is this guy from here? Right. And he's like, yeah. And I'm shocked by that because you don't see things like this start. You hear some people with some rumblings around about stuff like this, but never actually start a business around it. Right. So it was interesting to me that as you and I are talking more, that you did all this basically. You lived in New York for a little bit, but you were born
8 months.
You're born and raised here in Virginia, though, correct?
Not born. I'm from a small Caribbean island called Trinidad, if you've heard of it.
Yeah. But you lived in Virginia?
Yep. From the time I was 8, I came over here, 3rd grade, went on from there. And then I went to Longwood University, came back. Kinesiology major. Biggest waste of $100,000 ever.
All school is a waste of money.
So do you think that, because you're well-read, you have a sense of hustle. Yeah, I mean, you're curious.
Well, we're all a little lazy. I mean,
you seem to be moving faster than most. We'll put it that way.
You.
Did you,
Tim? You grasp that too, right? Like it's like yeah.
So I'm like, is that something that's instilled within you as a person, or is that something that you picked up on when you spent time in New York City? I mean, you said you lived a couple blocks from Times Square.
Is it because you're not from the United States, and because people who aren't there's a lot of people think that, right? Because you're not from here, there's that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I could kick my feet up and tell you guys my origin story and everything. We'd have a good time because all of the above.
What's the drink of choice down there?
In Trinidad?
Yeah.
Carib. We were talking about beer here in Puerto Rico. Modelo is the beer there. It wasn't that good, I'm not gonna lie, but you still drink it. But in Trinidad, Carib is their beer, and it's really good.
All right, Caribs, let's rock.
But yeah, I think it is because I'm from Trinidad. You come up and it's a third world country. Technically, there's no opportunity there. My mother is the reason I moved up here because she moved up here, put herself through ODU, computer science, and I would like go to classes with her because I was a kid, right? And then I would see her studying late at night, and I was like, shit, I should really like make something of myself up here.
There's
Like
the hustle right there, learning the hustle from that. Yep.
And I was horrible at school. I barely made it out of high school, and Longwood is not known for its academic excellence, and that was exercise science. So
is that the place with field parties?
Oh, we had a lot of parties. Any kind of party you name it, we had it.
No, I'm sorry. Like I went to West Virginia University. Like,
oh, okay, yeah.
Y'all didn't have parties there. Like,
I
went to Longwood and there was a party there.
Okay.
I would agree. I've been to West Virginia University.
So
you guys just have crazy parties.
Crazy parties. Okay, so you just said two really. Okay, so you're not from here. There's a huge piece of that. You followed your mom, saw her work ethic aspect of it. I mean, that to me, that's like super leading. It's like you always wanted more. So I mean, that to me, that's the telling sign as to why you are the way that you are.
Well, I would say I don't want to make it sound like I was this ambitious overperformer from the time I was a kid.
No, but it led you to it. You don't have to like see it as a kid. Yeah.
I know exactly when it happened. I've told this story before, but when I graduated from college, I became a personal trainer, and I was like, whoa, I'm broke. Like I have like 3 clients, and I had so much time on my hands, but no money. I was still living with my parents. So what I did have was Barnes and Nobles, and it's free to go in there. And I buy a coffee every now and then, buy one, get one free cookie, best deal on the market besides Costco's $1.50 hot dog. Anyways, I'd read all of the books there for hours in between clients. Lean Startup, I didn't have to buy the books. The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, reached out to Jay Papasan. He helped me write my first book. And I just that's where it started, because that's when I saw the world outside of Virginia, and I started to see what's happening in Silicon Valley. And I don't want to move to Silicon Valley, but I wanted to bring that excitement and that passion and that lust
of what they've done.
Yeah, but bring it over here. Like, why don't we have that excitement? I didn't see that growing up. That's why one of my businesses is getting into government contracting, because that's the stablest way to be a business owner here. There's so many government contracts close by, but it's not excitement. Yeah, it's not exciting though, is it?
Have you read that book?
CustomerDiscovery.co is exciting.
What book, Zach?
The One Thing?
Yeah, I have it.
Great book. Folks.
Oh, it's on audio CD for $50.
Yeah, it's I mean, but and then you can't help it when you're in New York City. The energy that you feel there. I mean, like just the street vendors that are fighting for everything, man. I mean, whether if you're selling street meat or the people that are selling sunglasses one day, and then when it's raining the next day, they're out there with their cart loaded with umbrellas and rain gear. I mean, it's just, they just hustle. And I love that sense of, hey, we got to make it. I mean, there's just no place like it.
And people say, what is your favorite part of New York? Is it the nice food, the nice, whatever? And I'm like, no, it's the energy. Like the conversations you have are just so different, and you accumulate those hundreds of conversations, you become a different person.
There is no energy like that here.
But there should
be. We live
well, it is now. It's us.
No, but I mean, sure. Right. But I mean, and not even like a portion of that. Right. Like, of course there's a portion of it. Zach, you're an idiot. Like, it's just, you leave there, you feel like, and then you hear like there's often that lacking piece to it.
Yeah.
So
it's like,
but really honestly, like that means that there's an opportunity to jump on to have a piece of it. And I think that's where Tim and I have been able to see some success over the years, is to try to capitalize and stir up or percolate people's thoughts. Can we, Tim, can we talk about our favorite topic right now?
Sure.
Okay, so you're a former, or I guess you're always like a personal trainer. So we said,
I guess, yeah, technically.
Right. Okay, so what's some physical fitness feats that you've done that are ridiculous that most people haven't done?
I guess the triathlon.
Okay, what distance?
It was a sprint. It was easy.
Oh my God, Tim Ryan
I'm a fake
triathlon a couple years ago. I don't know that he did. Tim can swim, so that's good.
Yeah, I learned by the Army divers on Fort Eustis taught me about the law of propulsion and creating two streams and all that. And I was like, I halved my lap time. It was crazy.
Oh, explain this to me, please.
So I was a personal trainer for myself, and I had a government contract, right? I was employed by the Department of Defense, so I started a business on Fort Eustis. And during my lunch break, instead of eating, I would just eat a loaf of bread each day because I was burning so many calories. And I would replace my lunch break by learning how to swim, because at noon, the Army divers were the lifeguards, and the Army divers were about to go on mission, and they were just so bored. They were ready to go. They were like, "Hey, you training?" And I had a swim parachute and everything tied around your waist. There's, it creates a lot of drag. Didn't use my feet at all. And they taught me about, instead of going like this, which everyone does, they swim very robotically. You come in the water, you don't make a splash, you create two streams of water, and you go back. You go like this, create two streams. And just doing that, my triceps didn't get tired. I was using my lats, and I went from, I forgot what it was, but I halved my lap time, which was, I think, 50 meters. And I got a lot faster.
All right. So interesting. So I'm a former swimmer. This is an interesting thought. Okay. So on butterfly, I do that. Right. But on freestyle, I've learned that actually you want to hug. It's disagreeing with your statement. You want to hug zipper more like this because you can get more propulsion. So I'm gonna next time I'm in the pool,
use your lats, right? When you do that, when you keep it close. I just felt the flex there. But that's what they taught me. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it worked.
I don't have enough lat muscle, I guess. So what made you quit personal training?
Well, it was very, I love helping people more than anything else. It's the best feeling in the world, but I love technology just as much. So instead of just being face to face, I was like, how can I leverage technology to do that? Using my graduation money to try to get a custom built app, failed horribly, offshore development team, and then white labeled a solution through Training Rise called Panacea Fit for people with medical conditions, scaled that to a couple hundred users. And that I was reading, obviously, I always read back then, Entrepreneur Magazine. I read an article about the Elon Musk of the fitness industry, who was Daniel Neary. Told him about what I was doing, loved it. He said, how about starting a business for me? Neary, N-Y-I-R-I. They're no longer in business. You'll see why. COVID. So he flew me down to Tampa. He said, how about starting a business for me down in Miami and launching the SaaS platform that you've launched for us? I said, no, I'd probably party too much. Went back to what I was doing in Virginia. And then he said, what about Manhattan? And I was like, hell yeah. And he was like, we'll pay for your apartment. And I was like, hell yeah, because that's really expensive. So I went up there and, I basically, they had a studio in West Village. So I operate there. And then I was basically a product manager. I didn't know that was the title back then. I was a product manager for the Dollar Train Club, which is what they wanted to launch. It was kind of like a acqui-hire, but they didn't acquire. They just hired me to do the same thing. I would love to finesse it as an acqui-hire, but it wasn't. I could still operate Panacea Fit in the spare time. So I had my trainers and my coach and my registered dietitian still managing that. But eventually I was like, no, I want to focus fully on this. And then I wanted to learn how to code. So in Manhattan, I was doing all those things, started moving into the tech industry, went to a tech summit in Microsoft in Times Square, and life was changed from there. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make this jump. And then COVID accelerated that because in-person personal training studios didn't do well. We didn't launch the online fitness app in time. So basically we all moved back home to our various states, I to Virginia, and then the rest is history. Started this business.
How did you, I have found that the more successful people are those that are the most curious. Have you always been curious by nature?
Yeah, I love learning new things and I love experimenting to learn those things like quickly. And Andrew Huberman, if you guys follow him, Dr. Andrew Huberman, he's the head of Stanford's neurobiology lab.
Yeah, he was on Rich Roll. Tim, we both listened to this guy.
Yeah. The science of learning is incredible because if you're able, especially with learning how to code, I face this every day. You face that no epinephrine release, which feels difficult. It's like pushing a hard set at the gym. That's the only analogy I can make because I'm a gym head, right? But it doesn't feel good at the time. You're like, oh, this is difficult. This hurts. I would rather play video games or something. But if you're able to push through that, you release no epinephrine, and that triggers neuroplasticity. On the other end of neuroplasticity, there's learning and there's a dopamine release, meaning learning new things can actually make you happy. Like you're releasing dopamine in a very healthy fashion. You can get dopamine through drugs. You can get it through, I don't know, doing a bunch of unhealthy stuff. Running is good. Not that it's unhealthy, but I mean, what is the most, it just feels like that's how you take control of your life. Like I can learn new things, do things that can like make me more money, make me more friends, make me whatever, make me in better shape and stuff like that through just learning new things. It's like the best way to take control of your life. I didn't say that well at all.
But I understand what you're saying. I always want to surround myself with people that are going to challenge the way that I think.
Right.
And people that I'm going to always learn something from. And I get really, really bored because there seems to be an increase of number of people out there that they aren't necessarily listening to you. They're only listening to, so there's a break in the conversation so they can be the one that are to talk about things, whether if it even is worthy of listening to or not. But so many people don't listen to learn. They just listen because they just want their opportunity to say whatever it is on their mind.
Right. And yes, man, a lot of people like surrounding themselves with people who just say, yeah, good job. No, like I want to be disagreed with. I want you to challenge the way I think. And then we're all going to get to a much better place. Like difficult conversations and healthy confrontation are the way to create deep bonds. It's the way to surround yourself with people who eventually become family,
So whenever I have a thought that I don't know where I want to go with it, I write like a email to myself, either in the subject line as like the topic, or like I'll write a little bit like a voice to text, something like that to myself. And something on December 1st. So we're recording this on December 16th that I wrote to myself. I don't know why. I don't know what the origin of this was, but it's something that is about Tim. And I thought it was really interesting. So, there's the power of the connection of the 5 people, you're whatever the, what is that? What is that?
The
like
average,
the average of your 5 people.
Average of 5 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. And Tim and I have been pretty close for almost a decade now. We'll say 8 years. The first 2 years of that, I didn't know him. And the other year of that, we weren't friends. My fault, not his. Long story. We don't need to talk about that. But Tim, subconsciously or consciously, had during that done some feats that are really interesting that I don't know that they necessarily changed my life at that time, but I infused them. I learned about them, right? And so Tim has been running, is it 7 years, 5 years? How many years is it, Tim?
7.5.
Okay, so Tim has run every day for every single day, no days off, for 7+ years, at least 2 miles, right? A lot of those are 5, 6 each days. And so over that period, Tim has told me about these runs, some easy, some long, sometimes it's running, sometimes it's snowing, sometimes he's hungover, whatever it might be, all across the board. Not a lot of hungover aspects of it, but occasionally it's there. Right.
Power through.
And so we're consuming this information, right? And you never know when that hook is going to switch, right? And so about 4 years ago, it switched for me. And I had started working out again pretty religiously. And I remember I was at day 3. Tim, I don't even know if I've ever told you of how my streak started. I was at day 3 of working out. It was January 2nd. It wasn't a New Year's resolution. I just happened to go to the gym. And then I went, let's just call that Monday. Then I go on Tuesday. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm a little sore. I'm going to take a day off. And then I thought to myself, not what would Jesus do? What would Tim Ryan do? Right?
Same thing though, right?
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, Tim would still work out. And I wasn't running, but I was working out. I was doing something. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. I should probably work out. I don't recall what I did that day, but I remember that I did something else and I kept working out. Because of that, I got to day 4. Then I got to day 20. Then I got to month 3, year 1, year 2. And literally there have been some very incredibly fitness heavy days in there where I'll run like a 70.3 triathlon. So 70.3 miles, a half an Ironman. Then there are days where I'll just do something physical for just a couple of minutes because I'm not feeling the greatest of days, but I've done something physical for almost 4 years straight. And it's because of him. My moral of this story is that sometimes we're consuming information and it just isn't hitting yet. And that doesn't mean to stop hitting that, to stop consuming that information, but you're kind of like banking all this in so that one day that thing triggers over. And when it does, it's like, boom, let's go. And that's been a monumental thing for me. So sorry for my long ass rant, but because of Tim doing all of that, it led me to have four years of no days off myself.
Was this like the name for the StartWheel? Is that kind of the origin
No,
story?
that was something that was adopted, but
I never liked the name of. I always thought the name StartWheel. I never liked it personally. But
I honestly don't even know where the origin of that is from. But
way back when.
Yeah, just to circle back around though. I mean, if you back in the day, Ethan. I mean, Zack has gone through a pretty transformation. The transformation is pretty significant. But if you want to talk about energy, I mean, if you would look at some of if we went back and were able to go back to some of the events that Zack hosted or I hosted back in the day, I mean, there were some barn burner types of events. I mean, just
really.
Oh my!
I mean, not West Virginia University style.
Yeah, we weren't burning couches, but
pretty close.
That's what we do at Longwood.
I can think about Start Norfolk 3 having like some of the most energy. Tim, you were at that one, right? Or is 4 the first one?
I was. Yeah. No, I was. Yeah.
Start Norfolk 3, Start Norfolk 2 is big. Start Norfolk 1. So it's like a build, like a startup weekend style thing, not affiliated, but build a company in a weekend competition. Start Norfolk 1 was kind of like that first push of like, okay, there is energy. And that was exciting times. But that was 7 years ago. Probably the last one I did, 2014.
Don't they say like once you're friends with someone for like 7 years, they're like family, no longer a friend?
I don't know. I've not heard that before. But I mean, Zack and I are certainly, I mean, we've been besties for a long, long time.
Like he said it, not me. So we're cool.
That's awesome.
No, but again, the moral of that is like consume, bank that information, but make sure you use it at some point, right? Like implement it at some point. And so I think in my head, I always wanted to do that, but I had never done it. And I'm very thankful and grateful for Tim leading that on, well, and don't look at your bank account every day, right? I mean, or maybe do look at your bank account.
I appreciate that, Zack. Well, I mean, while we're riffing on all this stuff, I think the one thing that is tough for me with this area is there's a lot of mindset that, oh, I already know this. So if there's a training event or if there's a workshop or if there is something, then the attendance may not be where it should be, whether if I was hosting it or if I was just attending. And I can always think of a dozen founders that should be there, but in their mind, they already know it already. Whereas with me, like you, Ethan, I'm a continuous learner. And it doesn't make a difference if I already know the subject matter or not, or if I think that I do. But I love to learn. So even if there's nothing wrong with hearing something a second time or a third time, it's a great refresher. Or it might be phrased in a way that you had never heard it, that it just didn't resonate that same way.
It took me 4,000 days basically to turn the trigger on my thing of something that I knew.
Yeah, and not to mention, and one other thing that I tell everyone, it's like go to the events around this area because the content is one piece of it, but the other piece of it is the serendipitous relationships that are going to form with people that you haven't seen, and that's just as important. So one of the things that Zack always tried to create, and I always tried to create up in Williamsburg, was a sense of density, because you needed to have that when you would have these events, and not compete against one another and further divide. We need to have one event with 100 people as opposed to 4 events with 25 or 10 events with 10. I mean, it's just I wish that there was more participation.
Was it like that in New York when you went there, or was it you weren't there long enough to see?
Oh yeah. What do you mean, like startup events? Because
just like the energy aspect of that kind of stuff. Like there, it was you felt that people went and weren't there just from the educational standpoint. They networked. They like it hit all the boxes.
I don't think I met a single type B person in Manhattan. And when you go to events, everyone's trying to get their piece. Everyone's there for different reasons. Maybe they're looking for a co-founder. Maybe they're looking to educate themselves like me. I was just there to learn, but they're doing so very deliberately. And that's something that will never stop. I always begin with deliberate intent, whether it's to give or, when it's time to ask. It's very deliberate both ways. And it's probably something I learned in New York. They're there for a reason. They're going to make it clear.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear. I share this not because I'm trying to throw shade on the area or complain about the area. I say this in the sense of I want to challenge founders to go support, be curious, learn. No, I guarantee you, if you go to an event, you're going to learn something or be reminded of something that you previously had learned. So that is my.
There's a guy who lives in New York. Maybe you met him. Ramit Sethi wrote a book at least twice. I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Yep, I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard great things about him.
Yeah, so I feel like he's one of those like Web 1.0 guys that like really figured out the internet, put stuff out there, and then how to make money off of it later type of thing. But he wrote a book, a finance guy. He's like a solo finance guy. Kind of similar and counter to Dave Ramsey, who's been a little bit more vocal on some of the bigger stuff type of aspect of it. But when I read his book maybe 8 years ago, among other things, one of the things that I remember as being the biggest thing was, look, this book is $15. If you can get one nugget out of it, who knows how much money that can get you out of it. So what are you worrying about, right? So, okay, there's this event, whether it's $15 free or whatever, can you get one nugget out of it? And I think sometimes maybe we look at it too big, and maybe that's why people, Tim, look at it so weird, is they're this like, oh, well, I'm not going to learn 1,000 things. I'm only going to learn one thing. Well, if that one little thing can change your conversions over, 2%, that 2% could be, the reason why you're making payroll every month, or raising billions of dollars every month type of thing. I don't think anyone raises billions of dollars, but you get my point.
That's right. Yeah.
Quibi
did. Quibi raised $1 billion and shut their doors 6 months later.
Yeah. Well, they
Roku
did
bought the
not
library.
validate.
Roku bought the library, I think, for $100 million.
Yeah, Quibi.
Well, they did,
yeah,
and Quibi didn't validate their customers.
Stupid idea. Yeah.
I was excited for it. I have the attention span of a goldfish, so short form episodes sounded good.
Well, and now humans have a lower attention span than a goldfish,
Squirrel.
which is scary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have did you say you wrote a book?
Yeah, but that was so I wrote two. I actually have it right next to me. It's just the manuscript for now. We're getting Chris Hively to work on it, but Lean Customer Discovery, first draft. And we're going to be basically going through what Y Combinator has taught, how, we did certain things, how to do it feasibly, how to do it middle of the market. And if you do have purchasing power, like you raise seed funding, how to go through it the best way.
How are you going about learning that material to become that subject matter expert, if you will, to be an author?
Well, I'm doing it, but I also use this. This is how I like Steve Blank, the legend right there. And Bob Dorff is great too. I told you I've read hundreds of business books, and just like you said, after a certain time,
I was looking for it.
You just hear that people are saying the same thing in different ways. They're just branding it themselves. Build, measure, learn is Eric Ries's way of talking about how to do customer discovery. I've done customer discovery workshops. I have a UX agency, so I have UX researchers that work for me. On clients, we do formal discovery, design, and development. So I know what you need to get into the design and development phase. I've kind of led that as a product manager and the CEO of the company. So I've learned how to do it. And then I see the formal ways you're supposed to do it. And I try to combine the two because like Cindy Alvarez, she's the head of research for GitHub. She was the head of research for Microsoft. She wrote that book, talks about the 10 questions you should ask. But you can't always do that. We don't work for Microsoft. We don't work for GitHub. So what degree of fidelity do you want to choose when you're trying to move fast, but also, in a very educated manner? That's the golden zone we're trying to find.
A user is someone who is using a product but doesn't pay. A customer is someone who uses a product but pays. How do you turn a user into a
Into a
customer. And
customer.
how do you validate, maybe what's an even more important question is, how do you validate that that person who has become a user actually is a customer? Because to me, as I'm hearing that, I need customers to make money in that aspect. And if I can't convert them into customers paying money, then I really haven't validated those users.
Yeah. So it depends on your business model, right? Because if you're B2B, then are they paying? Then yes, it's validated. No, if it's freemium, and not a social media site, right? Because social media site validation is active usage. Are they signing in each day? Are they creating content? Validated. 70,000 users using it, but 0 paying. Validated because of the nature of the business model.
Because they are going to sell ads to someone else. There's going to be premium sponsorship somewhere. Got it.
Right. But freemium, like what we have for, say, like, they come in, they could list their startup, get free feedback up until a certain point, like 5 early tech adopters per month. Then you got to pay for more. Seeing that active usage, that they're using the platform, is the second purest form of validation. Because even letters of intent to pay, they're non-binding, so that doesn't matter even from a B2B perspective for corporate innovation labs. Who's to say they actually will pay? But of course, yeah, people paying to use a service doesn't get any better than that. And we did that from day one before we even got to market, and we're doing that now. And we're trying to stay at 20% of total users are paying users. And we hope to continue that up until, Series A and on.
How do you determine what companies to take on as customers? Or, since we're talking the difference between users and customers, how do you determine what customers you're willing to take on?
Yeah, so we've had some failed engagements to where we had to refund people because, like, for example, they needed C-suite executives because they were onboarding software. Like, they would do like onboarding events for virtual art shows, right? Especially now with the NFT space going on. And it was so incredibly tough to recruit C-suite executives at Series A companies because that was their ICP. So we had to refund them. I think we got them one because I knew the CEO of User Interviews. So, and that's so ironic, right? Because User Interviews does that, and he was willing to meet with them. That was a Y Combinator startup. So I decided to take everybody on at first just to get the data points, because I was like, we need to find what recruitment channels, our recruitment tech stack is flawed. We need to find which channels are better than others. Is it email outreach? Is it community outreach? Is it LinkedIn Sales Navigator? And if we didn't do those engagements, we had to refund 2 of them. A/B testing was another one, to where we had to recruit digital marketers with a purchasing power of $5,000 a month. Incredibly difficult to find them. But we realized then that there's major research, there's major marketing channels like Dynata, Lucid, User something, I forgot, User everything. There's a bunch of them. But they have the biggest ones, like Lucid, have these research panels of millions of people. I don't know how they accumulated it, but they license it out for like $1,000 a year, and then $2 to $3 per survey response. We can build a business model off of that, and now we don't have to do cold outreach all the time. Now it's like they're actively participating. They're titled early tech adopters, or titled working business moms, income. They have all these filters, income over 100,000, whatever. Now we can leverage that, and I would have never known how to do that. And that's core to our value proposition of bringing these heavy lifting UX research tools to early stage startups, because we can leverage that one-to-many business model. No startup founder wants to pay $1,000 a year and X amount of dollars for access to that, but we can pay that, and then we can bring it to 100 different founders. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, because to take that question one step further, in terms of how do you filter out a startup founder that just wants to use your platform as a quick way to get X amount of number of users or customers on their platform, to think that that's going to jumpstart them to get to the next level?
Yeah, so we haven't had that yet, but Mohammed has asked me about that. He said, a lot of founders come to us wanting lead generation, and we're not lead generation. But it's funny because at customer discovery, you're at the intersection of sales and research. So where in that line are we? And we're still nailing that down, Tim. We don't know, because sometimes people will pay for a product and we're like, oh, wait, we're technically a lead generation company, right? But we never make that part of the value proposition. We never guarantee a sale. It's like, We're bringing someone to you for a discovery call. You're going to be able
Yep.
to pick their brain. You're going to get to empathize and understand them. But if they choose to sell, that's great. We don't charge a success fee or anything like that.
Founders
I mean,
are
it's
savvy.
hard. It's got to be hard for someone to grasp, though, right? So, I'm talking to someone. They check all the boxes. That's a lead. Why wouldn't I want to like? That's a very like. It's not a black and white thing to me. Like well, maybe it is black and white. Like
it's in between.
Like if I'm talking to someone and they check all the boxes, like I'm gonna go after them, and I don't.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
right.
Nothing wrong with that. We
But
did
you're
that
not-
with user interviews. Like we paid $1,000 for 10. I think it was 10 founders or 10 something through their panel. And we kept them in our Slack channel. So as we built and as we mocked up through Figma, they were the first ones to see it. They were our cohort of validation. And we said, is this something you would want to use? Yeah, no, change this. And we kept them. We paid the upfront costs, but we still talk to them to this day. Hey, what do you think about this? Now we're going to go to 2.0. Yeah, product market fit engine. Love it. Makes sense. No reason they can become paying customers. I think one of them did become a paying customer, a very small order, but there's no reason why you can't do that. We want to be asynchronous, meaning they can connect offline after they come to us. But if you want your data fed through the product market fit engine to get a faster score, you better do that customer discovery interview on our platform, right? So the value proposition is there on both sides. We wanted to do the user interviews, user testing side of things, but also give them the freedom to connect offline if they want to.
Tim used the word curious. It's interesting. I took a note that says reaches out to everyone, right? So like you see something or you hear something, you're curious about it, you learn who wrote it or who created that piece of content, that material, and then you reach out to them. What percentage of people that you reach out to respond back to you?
High amount now because I created a ton of content and my name's been attached to bigger brands. Like we were.
What about early back in the day when it wasn't what? How did you get them to engage with you back?
Slim to none. I mean, Jay, you meet people that genuinely want to help others, right? Like they get to a certain level of success and they're probably like Seth Godin's not going to reach back out to me because he gets millions of responses every day, probably.
Have you ever reached out to him?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Jay Papasan, I mean, he was just a really nice guy. He was just like, yeah, I love helping new people.
Who is that?
With me.
Jay who?
He's the one that wrote The One Thing.
Oh,
he's the author of The One Thing with Gary Keller. And he was just super nice. He talked to me about his experience, told me to self-publish over going with a publishing agency because as a first-time author, you get screwed. Helped me out a ton.
I think there's a lot of proven data points that say maybe self is the only way to go now too, by the way. As a published
so you have
author,
a proven audience. Yeah.
But I mean, you could be losing a lot of money. I just read this thing by Tucker Max. He wrote, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. That series. He created a company called Scribe Media out of Austin. Scribe is what Goggins is under, David Goggins. Mm-hmm. You know who that is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so he said, had he signed with the guy, had he signed with the company that offered him, he would have made $7 million. But because he self-published, he made $25 million, and he broke it down on everything. I mean, that's a 4x difference. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. All you need is a good marketing funnel. Really, that's what they're selling you on distribution. So get your own marketing funnel and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to touch on one thing later in the show.
Yeah.
As
Sean Ellis, Growth Hacker.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah.
I missed that. What was it?
You said you wanted to circle back and touch on Growth Hacker. Oh.
So you take a framework that is product market fit. Listen to this, guys. Okay. You take this framework that is product market fit, right? How long has it been around? Roughly 5 years, right? Andreessen Horowitz, my face it was the primary screen now. I miss seeing you guys. Andreessen Horowitz was the one that coined the term product market fit. There's investor founder fit, there's problem solution fit, there's business model fit, all these fits. But 5 years ago is when the term was coined. What has been the primary innovation for getting there since then? It's Sean Ellis's product market fit score survey, which is literally one question. And it's like, do 40% or more of your users say that they would be very disappointed if this product were to not exist? If yes, product market fit. If not, keep on churning. And there's frameworks for like percentage, but that is it. That's the only innovation we've had in 5 years. And I've spoken with Sean, and he's given me a lot of great advice in terms of growth, and he agrees. He's like, why is no one built on my foundation? I spoke with Chris Hively as well.
So is that the only level that you take it, or do you pay attention to net promoter scores, or?
Oh, net promoter score is great too. Yeah. How likely are you to promote this? But that's what I'm getting at, to where that's my passion. That's my purpose. We're building on that foundation, and we're leveraging AI, and we're going to say, okay, this is a good foundation. Let's bring a formal UX research team to see what other questions we can ask and quantify, to then fuel that data into linear regression, which is AI. Basically, it's just linear regression on steroids, a predictive validation model. And now let's help people get insights a lot faster. So someone who's working a job that they hate, but they have this new fitness idea that could help out working moms, they can validate that while they're still working that job, have data around it. They can take that to investors, or and get the good bit of like initial traction, then they can quit their job. Not, hey, I have this great idea, I think it's going to change the world, and then they just jump ship. People ask me that all the time, like, hey, I have this mobile app idea, I know a web development agency, I'm thinking about quitting my job. They're like, no, let's get some data around it first, Bubba. Let's take your time, collect that paycheck, but get that data, and then decide, when you have that validation.
I think there's something very powerful too on getting a foot in the door, right? A foot in the water. I interviewed Damon John a few years ago, and I asked him a similar question, like, hey, like, someone has an idea, they're ready to quit their day job. What do you think? And he's like, probably not. Like, you probably aren't in the position that you think that you are, and you think that, it's just going to immediately come. And so you should probably just put a foot in the water and see how it goes. There's a handful of people that I can think of, even people that we invested in a Hatch way back when, that, seem like great fits. They put one foot in the water and like, I quit. I'm like, you asked one person one question and you didn't like the answer and you quit? Like, you're weak.
Oh yeah, early on you get a ton of rejection.
And I think that's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get rid of, right? You're trying to get rid of that riffraff, if you will. Like, and it's like, hey, like, everyone wants to start a business, and it's like, people should give, like, I'm gonna toot my own horn, but like, people should give me like a little bit more credit to have been doing this for as long as I have. Like, hello, like, we're looking at a decade plus of this. Like, that's a damn hard thing to do. Like. How? Come on!
You want to know something else that's crazy? The reason why Sean Ellis came up with that framework, because he's the growth guy, right? What is the byproduct of product market fit? That says green light, you're ready to scale. Okay. Right. So what we actually do is help founders realize if they're ready to scale or not a lot faster. And then there's a whole list of things that happen after that. You raise funds, you establish your foundational growth channels, you now start to make money, right? So we help you realize how to, are you ready to scale and become profitable or raise investment a lot faster? That's huge when it comes to new people starting ideas. And that's why I'm like, man, I want to get this started. We need to raise funds. I've just put $50,000 of my own money into it. If I had to put another 50,000, I'm thinking we go crowdfunding, let the people own a little percentage of it, maybe 7 to 10%. What do you guys think?
Terrible idea.
Why?
I don't think that that world of crowdfunding is the best.
Okay, I think I know why you're going to say that, but
from a percentage standpoint, I wouldn't want the unknowns on my.
No, it's one line item on the cap table. It comes across as one line item if you're Reg CF. So it's not too much of an issue.
I think you'd see better results out of what Tim has been doing with a what do you call that, Tim?
Syndicate.
Yeah, syndicate. I think you'd see. I think you would see better results from a syndicate style than a crowdfunded style, whether it's one line or not.
I'm confused. What is a syndicate, by the way?
Just a group of accredited angel investors.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is a good point.
Were you looking at something like on Republic or something like that?
We're thinking about it. I have a call later today with a crowdfunding marketing and PR agency. And they've helped a lot of tech companies because physical products do really well with crowdfunding. Tech companies have a harder time. And they're going to let me know whether to go Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Republic, Start Engine. Have a few calls with founders who've raised $5 million at a $50 million valuation for their first raise, which is crazy. 757 Angels pointed me in that direction. That's going to be really hard to raise subsequent rounds, I feel like, if you're that.
Well, I think that, one thing though, Zach, to counter what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, but when you do, if you were to raise money like on a Republic and you had 1,000 different people that have kicked in some money, you've now have 1,000 champions on your on your back that want to see you succeed.
Innovators and early tech adopters.
Right.
You do, but you don't have probably those next rounds.
Well, but so now you got 1,000 different leads when you want to go to your next round. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. That was the whole value proposition of market paying. The people that help you get off the ground, if they're your champions and they invest in you.
Are there a way to have them be your champions without taking out a stake of the business? Give them lifetime access to something?
Yeah, lifetime deals. There's groups like that, but it's I don't know. It's good for an initial bump in revenue, but that's about it.
Lots to think about. Is there anything else? Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Well, I want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for the offer. Tim, I've had the pleasure to meet you in person, and it seems like you're doing great work for the local entrepreneurship industry, and that should never go unsaid. Zach, I haven't met you yet, but you have great energy. It was awesome to meet you, and I want to chat offline and get to know you. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Ethan, one really last quick question. If you could have dinner and or drinks with one person, who would that person be?
Do they have to be famous or just people here?
Just the most inspiring person in your life that you just love to be able to pick their brain over dinner and drinks.
Alive or dead?
Either way.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, hands down. That book changed my life. If I didn't read that book sophomore year of college, I would have never gotten into the tech industry. The biography of Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Couldn't put it down.
Tim, that answers Elon for you.
Yeah, I would love to. For sure.
My answer is definitely the man half naked behind me.
The Rock.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, without a doubt. I mean,
legend.
Just
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Just seems like I look at this is how I rank people. Okay. How many drinks would I want to drink with that guy? Right? I would want to drink a crap ton of drinks with The Rock. I don't drink tequila. I would drink his tequila. I'd go all day. I'd go all night. Let's go. I would be super excited about that. Ethan, it's super great to meet you. Best of luck with everything. Tim.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace and pancakes later.
See ya.
Thank you, guys.